Boom, boom, boom. Welcome to the 708 Bench Mob podcast. This is our March Madness special. I'm Peter Augustiniak, and for the first time ever, we have all three of us in the same room. I got Lucas Birchman, Noah Birchman. We're going to dive right into this March Madness episode. Selection Sunday, I think all three of us can agree, the greatest holiday of the year. And, you know,
Christmas is
I mean, yeah, we sleep in May.
we do sleep.
So, yeah, let's kind of dive right into it. What do you guys think of the one seeds in the tournament, Noah?
Well, I mean, I thought it was real interesting when you talked about what Texas did to Kansas yesterday. I think when that happened and UCLA lost, I thought there was a chance that I thought there was a chance Texas could be in the consideration. And I also find it interesting that Houston got the number 2 seed over Kansas, and I think a lot of people took issue to that. But I think the committee really valued Houston's consistency all season long, and the one game they did lose today to Memphis in their conference championship was without Marcus Sasser, and I think if that team has Marcus Sasser, you can make an argument that that team can win it all. So overall, I really had no issues, but there was I thought Texas could have a chance, but I like the four that they got.
Yeah. Lucas?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Alabama kind of ran away with it just based on Houston losing today. So they weren't going to get it. Even if they had Sasser today, they just weren't going to be able to get the number one overall seed. Again, Kansas lost in their tournament, and Purdue has just been probably the weakest link of all the ones. So I do think Alabama's rightfully deserving of the overall number one. But yeah, again, I don't take much. I mean, it's not. It's a good one line. Like Noah said, Texas could have made an argument, but I don't think they deserved it.
Yeah, I think like just me touching on the ones, I think Bama, yeah, clearing away the overall number one seed in the tournament. I mean, they dominated the regular season. They have one or two losses in the entire SEC play. They ran through the tournament. They dominated the SEC title game. And I just think that they were overall the most dominant team all year. And then you look at Houston and going into this tournament without Marcus Sasser, I don't think they make it out of the Sweet 16. I think they're a Sweet 16 and exit if Marcus Sasser doesn't play. If he plays, I think it's a different story.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting point that's being brought up about Houston is how healthy is Marcus Sasser? Because you're talking about, I mean, I personally think Iowa's a pretty dangerous team. Auburn really struggled to score the ball. They play great defense. But I think Iowa, if they can get past Auburn, and then if we're assuming Houston beats Northern Kentucky, even without Marcus Sasser, but if Iowa matches up with a Marcus Sasser-less Houston team, I think that game could get really interesting, and Marcus Sasser really does just control what happens to Houston. I think you saw what happened today. I mean, they lost to a good Memphis team, but I mean, they trailed by double digits, 15 around. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I forgot what game it was, but Houston won a game in their conference tournament, and they scored 60 points. The team Sasser had 30 of them. He literally scored half of the team's points. But I do agree with Noah what he said. I think that team could be susceptible to a loss if Iowa was able to make their shots, which we know they can. I was a great offensive team. So, and again, if they don't have Marcus Sasser, that's a tough second round.
I mean, that changes things in the top of the Midwest region.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure. I think that you look at Houston and you kind of look at it and say, okay, besides Marcus Sasser, who can take over a game for them? And they really don't have that guy that can just take over a game for them.
I like their pieces. I mean, Jamal Sheb's a very good point guard for them, but he plays well with Sasser.
Yeah.
I mean, Jarsey Walker, he's good, but he's not the guy that's going to take over a game and give you 30 points if needed. But they're a very deep team, but I do kind of agree with that. Sasser makes them go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about Houston, you look at the elite thing they do is they're an elite defensive team. And Jamal Shed actually won the American Athletic Conference Defensive Player of the Year. And I think this team can advance without Sasser. But I mean, it's going to make it a lot more interesting because if you told me they had Marcus Sasser ready to roll for the first round, I think Houston rolls the Elite Eight.
Yeah, but there's some question as to if he's
Yeah.
even gonna be able to play the entire first weekend.
Yeah, and we'll see his availability as the week moves on.
You guys got anything else about the one seeds?
No, I don't think so. I think that, I mean, Purdue, rightful 1 seed, Edie. Purdue's interesting to me because if they play, I think they'll be able to get out of the first weekend just because no one can really compete with the height of Edie. But if you see like a matchup with Duke in the Sweet 16, I think that's the thing when things get interesting for them. But
Yeah, Filipowski is gonna be able to match up with
I do
Edie a
think
lot
that
better.
Purdue, I mean, that's what everyone says all year. Purdue doesn't go very fast. They play a very post-oriented offense, and that doesn't usually win in March. So I think they're also susceptible to an upset.
Yeah, they're a very slow paced team. And if their freshman guards aren't hitting shots, I mean, that's a team that I think is really susceptible too. I think Memphis is a really good team. Florida Atlantic, you look at them and obviously a talented team, but they're a small team. And I think that's the exact team that Purdue would feast on. Even though Florida Atlantic's been reliable on the boards all year, there's much more to that when it comes to interior defense and contesting Edie. And yeah, I think Florida Atlantic, I think Memphis would definitely pose the tougher second round matchup to Purdue.
Well, and you got to look at it from a sheer talent standpoint of the teams Florida Atlantic plays all year versus Purdue, and they don't play us. They might play big guys. They don't play a 7'4" dude like Zach Edey.
No,
Like,
they do not.
you're not. They
Not
don't
many
play
people
power.
have. You're outside
Yeah,
of the Big Ten.
Exactly.
I mean,
They just don't play Power 5 competition all year.
Yeah.
But I think it could be interesting. And I think the last one seed Kansas is pretty cut and dry. They're going to make a deep run again.
yeah.
If their health, McCullough being out for the foreseeable future, he's kind of in the same boat as Sasser. We don't know if he'll be back at all the first weekend.
I think Kansas really hinges on DeJuan Harris.
Yeah.
I mean, the stats will tell you when he plays well and he scores over 6 points or whatever and has over 4 or 5 assists, they win. And when he doesn't do that, they lose. So I think that he's their key in March. But Kansas is very well rounded. Now, the second round, Arkansas and Illinois are very similar to each other. So whichever team wins can also give Kansas some trouble because those two teams, you feel like they can beat anybody in the nation, but they're ranked 8 and 9 because they also can lose to anybody in the nation. So I think Kansas does need to be a little bit on the lookout for that second round matchup. But no, I think Kansas is prone for a deep run again in March.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Kansas really did get a tough draw. I think Arkansas is a really talented team, and they have pros on their team. And you talk about if Arkansas figures it out, they're not a great shooting team, but if they're clicking on all cylinders and you let them get out in transition and use their athleticism, they're a bigger team. I think they can pose problems for anyone to be a matchup problem. I also think UConn's a really tough team. I think Kansas definitely, of the one seeds, has the toughest path to
Yeah.
Elite Eight.
Touching on Arkansas, just because I watched a lot of SEC basketball this year, and you look at Kansas a lot of the year, they struggled against teams with good guard play.
Texas is example number 1.
Texas example, Kansas State is another example. When other teams' guards play well against Kansas, Kansas struggles. And Arkansas is a perfect example of their offense runs through their guards in Nick Smith Jr. I mean, having him back, he was out most of the season, which is why I don't think Arkansas is ranked as high as they were expected to be. They were expected to finish as a top 3 team in the SEC. Didn't end up happening that way because they dealt with injuries most of the year. But I think that could be an interesting second round matchup. My only criticism to Arkansas is like we see some years with a Kentucky team, a Duke team, teams like that have only freshmen is the inexperience in March.
Yeah, and they can't shoot very well, but neither can Illinois, who they play in the first round. Those two teams are just not good 3-point shooting teams. So that'll be an interesting matchup to watch. But I do agree, lots of inexperience for Arkansas. But if they click, they could easily beat Illinois, and they could give Kansas a run for their money.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Musselman, but this is a big year for him because this recruiting class coming in was the best recruiting class in Arkansas history. They had multiple 5-star recruits. There were a ton of expectations on this season. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say Musselman's on like the hot seat or anything, but if they don't do any, like if they are a first round exit in March,
Would be a disappointment,
it would be a disappointing season for them, for
especially
sure.
with the guys they ended up with in the transfer portal too.
Mhm.
I mean, I know the first few weeks of the off season, people are digging into the portal, and you keep looking. Arkansas is landing this guy and this guy and this guy, and
Yeah.
how is he offering enough minutes to be able to land all these guys? And
Well, that's the thing. You look at it when they actually played the games this season, and there weren't enough minutes for all those guys.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of interesting matchups, but I think we should just go ahead and run through the bracket, kind of see what we got for the round of 64. Let's start up in the top of the South region. You know, you've got Alabama playing the winner of Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and SEMO. I think we can all agree that that's an easy win for Bama.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't even think that this is one of those 116 that like there's any chance.
Yeah, there's zero chance.
I'm not going to sit here and pick a 16 seed, but so obviously, I'm just going to go through my picks here, all the way to the final four. But yeah, starting in the South region, I like Alabama, and that team, they play fast. They don't play great defense, but not a lot of teams can score with them, and they can outscore anyone in the tournament. And that's what it is.
They move the ball.
Yeah.
They have a high assist average.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna take Maryland over West Virginia. I like Maryland. I like Jameer Young. I think they're a better offensive team. They move the ball. They have Dante Scott. They have Julian Reese, good presence inside. So I'm gonna take Bama or Maryland, I mean. But then now when you talk about San Diego State in Charleston, I think a lot of people are gonna have potential upset picks here and then the next game too. Um, I I think San Diego State gets it done. They're an elite defensive team. They do struggle to score a little bit, and Charleston is a team that scores 80 a game. I think defense wins out in this matchup. I do like San Diego State. They're an older team. They have a lot of experience, and yeah, I like their defense. And then a lot of people think Furman. I mean, Furman and Kent. It's going to be an offense versus defensive game. Virginia struggles to score sometimes, but they hold people to 60 points a game.
Yeah.
And I think Virginia, again, they're a little bit more proven, battle tested throughout the year. I like that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think the like kind of middle chunk of that region was I know it was super difficult to make some of those round of 64 picks
Yeah.
because there's a lot of potential for upset in that region for sure.
Yeah. San Diego State and Virginia did not get an easy draw for how well of a season they those teams had.
Mhm.
And then going down, I think Creighton. I like North Carolina State's guard play, but Creighton's a team that to me can win it all. I like all of their pieces, good defensively, and then I'm also going to take Baylor. I like Mizzou more than Utah State. That game could be a shootout. I like Mizzou's guard play a little bit more, and then I'm going to take Arizona too. So just kind of going back to the top, I like I like Bama to beat Maryland. I think that game could be a little more interesting than people think. But then I like Virginia to beat San Diego State. Again, battle tested. I like the older teams. I think they're really well coached. And then a lot of people are going to take Creighton here. And I was just talking them up, and they have a lot of really good pieces. But in March, it's a guards game, and Baylor has guards, and they've proven that they can win in March. I like Baylor over Creighton. A lot of people are going to pick Creighton over Baylor.
I think Keontae George is going to take over in that game.
Yeah, I mean, you have perimeter pros. I like LJ Cryer. I like George and then Flagler too. I mean, when that team's on and they're hitting their shots,
They're a tough team to
yeah,
beat for
they
sure.
have struggled a little bit defensively, which could be a little bit questionable. People will have Creighton winning that game. I do like Baylor. But then going back to the top, I like Alabama again. I don't think there's a team in this region that's going to stop them. And it seems like all chalk so far, but Virginia can't score with Alabama and they move too fast. And I would like to see that game a good offensive versus defensive battle. But at the end, I think talent wins out. Bama has more of it. They're deeper. They move the ball better. And then I have Arizona beating Baylor. I think a lot of Arizona's success can come from tournament experience. And Tabellus is a matchup problem for a lot of the teams in this region. Um, I think Arizona gets by Baylor. And then I like Alabama from this region to go to the Final Four. I think their offense just too good.
I I think you look at the Bama Arizona game and you talked about Tabellus being a matchup problem for a lot of teams in that region, and I think Bama is the one team that can stop Tabellus. I mean, you look at Charles Bediako and Noah Clowney and Brandon Miller. I mean, their front court is big enough. Their front court plays good enough defense to be able to handle Tabellus. And I think if you shut down Tabellus, you're gonna have a pretty good chance against Arizona. So I like Bama in the Final Four. Lucas, what do you got in your South region?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Noah on most of the things. There are a couple of things where I disagree, though. I mean, Alabama and Maryland, I also have winning. I think Jameer Young's very good for Maryland. I think he's going to be good enough to beat West Virginia. I like San Diego State to beat Charleston. Charleston doesn't really have one superstar player that can take over a game. I think everyone in their starting five averages double-digit points, but on the low end of them, they don't have one guy that averages like 20 points or something like that. And San Diego State plays great defense. I like Virginia. I know they've struggled recently coming in. They're so well coached and they play great defense. So I like Virginia to go pretty far. And then I love Creighton. I love Creighton. Trey Alexander is shooting 44% from deep this year. He's been extremely good for them. They have Kalkbrenner. They have Arthur Kaluma, Baylor Shireman. That's a very good team. I like Baylor against UCSB as well. I do like Missouri over Utah State. I think that game is going to be high scoring, like 85, 90 points for each team. It's going to be a good game. Utah State's a tough team when it comes like in March, the way they're built. But I do like Missouri's guard play, and then obviously I'm taking Arizona. I have Alabama beating Maryland. No one can stop that offense. UVA beating San Diego State. UVA's defense is just better, and they'll slow the game down. And I know Noah said a lot of people are going to take Creighton over Baylor. I'm one of those people. I love Creighton. I love Creighton. Like they're one of my favorite teams in March. And I think Bama got a tough draw with the teams in their region because they have to play Creighton, Virginia, and Arizona. And I'm going to take Arizona over Missouri. And then Alabama, Virginia is a matchup that was very interesting to me. I don't know who I'd pick just yet. Because I think if Virginia plays their best possible game, which they're going to have to do to beat Alabama, but if they do, they will slow down the pace and they will force them into bad shots. There was something I saw. Alabama takes like 80% of their shots in the first 12 seconds of the shot clock.
Yeah, they are what you would call like a almost
Like a
seven
7 second.
seven second
Yeah. So
offense.
if
Yeah.
Virginia can stop that and force them into longer offensive sets, wear them down, I think it's possible Virginia could win that game. And then Creighton, Arizona is also a great game that I really haven't made my mind up on yet. But if I had to say right now who I would take coming out of that region, go to the Final Four, it would either be Alabama or Creighton. And I think I right now would say Alabama.
Yeah, and talking about your point of Virginia, like trying to slow the game down defensively and force Bama to move the ball and actually have like a full offensive possession. You watched, I don't know if you guys watched a ton of SEC basketball this year, but you watch teams like Mizzou, Kentucky, Florida, even Arkansas, who we talked about a few minutes ago, try and slow down the game, like forcing the ball into guys like Bediako and Clowney. And the thing is, Nate Oates is such a good coach that he's able to adjust to things like that. And their offense is still, one of the top offenses in the country. So I do sort of agree with your point that Virginia they have to slow the game down. Because if they let Alabama run and gun, they're going to get blown out of the water because Virginia's, like Noah had said, Virginia's offense can't keep up.
Yeah, I agree. But again, Virginia's offense is very slow paced and they don't score very much. But I love Tony Bennett, and I think that if Virginia plays their best game, they could beat Alabama. It is possible.
Yeah. So why don't we move? Let's just go right down the bracket and go to the East. I mean, I think that this is a little bit more of a cut and dry region. I mean, you've got your top seeds of Purdue and
Yeah.
things like that. And I think let's kind of start at the top with the Purdue game. Noah, what do you got in that matchup?
I like Purdue. No one's stopping Edie. I
Especially this.
Yeah, the mid-major teams are really going to struggle there. But then going down the list, I like Florida Atlantic, and I do like Memphis. I like the guard play. I like Memphis more in that game, a little bit more experience.
Yeah, I think FAU is a team that's interesting, but what are they like? They're like 30 and 31 and 3. But you see like those teams every year, like they kind of like beat around the rankings. FAU plays good offense, and Memphis doesn't play very good defense. But I do like Memphis. I do like Memphis' guard play a lot, and I think that means a lot in
Yeah.
March. So.
And I think the 31-3 is going to go back to what I said about FAU earlier in the show, that it's the talent they play. I mean, you look at like the lesser like kind of mid-major sort of conferences. I think you look at a team like FAU and those mid-major conferences, the talent gap is way bigger than in like a Big Ten or a Pac-12 or anything like that.
Yeah, you're not playing anywhere near the level of competition. And I think people are going to look at FAU and they're going to say, oh, they were in the rankings at one point. They were they're 31 and 3. And like that's very deceiving in March. Like one team from every that is a one bid league. They won their league and they dominated their league. There's no doubt about it. But Memphis is a great team, and I don't think FAU can keep up with them.
Yeah. So
I
I'm
think
taking Memphis.
I think we've all got Memphis in that one.
As for the next game, I think this is the best 12 seed in the game in March Madness. I think Oral Roberts has proven that they can win in March before with this group core
It's
guys.
basically the same team.
Yeah, I mean, talking about 30-4 and a team that scores 84 a game. Duke's gonna have their hands full. I do like Duke. They get more scoring from different pieces. They also play really good defense, and yeah, so I'll be taking Duke in that game.
So I'm gonna take Oral Roberts in this game for one reason. Oral Roberts is a 7'5" big man that an Arkansas transfer. Who yeah, Connor Vanover, who's gonna pull Filipowski outside of the lane. And I think that's where Max Amos goes to work. Because if you can get Filipowski out of the paint, you have a much better chance of winning a game against Duke. And I think Oral Roberts' ability to stretch the floor with all five of their guys, it's going to spread out Duke. And I think Oral Roberts, I'm going to take them just for the 12-5 upset. But I think Duke most likely will pull away. But if Oral Roberts wants any chance, they have to be able to stretch the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think Oral Roberts kind of fell victim to a one bid league in the sense that they don't. I feel like they're better than a 12 seed, but they're in a league that's not very good, so you can't really tell. Then I do have Duke winning this game pretty handily, actually. Oral Roberts doesn't play defense, and they played one ranked team this year. Well, actually, they played two ranked teams this year. They played Houston and they lost by 38, and they played St. Mary's and lost a close one by 8. So they don't have a ranked win. I really, really like Duke. And I think that Oral Roberts was a popular upset pick coming in before the bracket was released. And I just think that they kind of got not really screwed over because, I mean, everyone knew they'd be a 12 seed, but Duke is an extremely tough first round matchup. And I think Duke wins this game by double digits. I think people are kind of wrapped up in the aura of Oral Roberts, like, oh, they went on a run 2 or 3 years ago. I think they have a great team this year. I just don't think they could beat Duke.
Yeah, no, Duke's playing their best basketball at the right time. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
The next one is going to be my first upset of the game of the show. I really don't like Tennessee. I didn't like Tennessee when Ziegler was healthy, and man, what a loss that is. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, out for the
that's
rest
just-
of the year with an ACL.
just destroys them offensively. And yeah, I like the way Louisiana plays. they score. I mean, 78 a game. Some of these conferences are higher scoring conferences. Tennessee still does play elite defense. So I mean, I think them winning a game isn't out of the picture, but they don't score. They score 71 a game, which
Yeah,
is really low among the mid or against the high major teams. Tennessee had it going early in the year, but yeah, I don't think they have enough offense to keep up with Louisiana.
Yeah.
I'm going with Louisiana.
I'm also gonna take Louisiana. I personally think that Tennessee is ranked higher than they really should be. And I realize you can't just rank a team lower just because, their point guard is out for the rest of the year. But they really don't show that. They haven't shown that much to me as of late. They they lost to Vandy. They lost to Mizzou. I mean, they got blown out by Alabama. They got in one of the games they played. The other one, yes, they beat Bama, but then they got swept by Kentucky this year, who has not been anywhere near what they were supposed to be. And I think, like you said, with Sakai Ziegler being out, and me and Lucas talked about this in a past episode that Tennessee has nobody that they can give the ball to.
Mhm.
You take away Zakai Ziegler, they have no offense. Because not only does he score for them, he creates shots for other players. And without his ability to create shots, nobody knows how to make their own points. I mean, nobody can score on their own. So I'm also taking Louisiana. Raging Cajuns all the way in this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna differ a little bit than you two here. I'm going Tennessee. I think Tennessee plays just such a they probably have the best defense in the nation. And it's not particularly close. And I know you can look and say Louisiana averages 78 points per game, but they don't shoot any free throws. They Louisiana rebounds very well, which could hurt a Tennessee team a little bit, but Louisiana does not drive downhill and get to the line. So if their shots aren't falling, which against Tennessee, a lot of teams don't do, they don't make shots against Tennessee. And I don't think Tennessee's going to make a deep run, but I think they're going to get past this game because I just love their defense, and I think defense wins in March. And if they can score 65 points in this game, I think they'll win this game.
Yeah, this game's going to be in the 50s. Take the under.
Yeah, I would.
It's
Yeah,
not going to be a high scoring game.
Yeah.
Moving on from that one, Kentucky and Providence. I like Kentucky, and the whole Bryce Hopkins narrative was just so vivid here. And
Oh, what a coincidence.
yeah. If anyone did not know, Bryce Hopkins was at Kentucky, transferred from Kentucky, and is now Providence's best player. I understand the narrative surrounding it. I think Kentucky's starting to heat up a little bit at the right time. I know they didn't play as well as they wanted to in the SEC tournament, but I don't know. I still like Kentucky. I like their depth, and I'm not going to bet it against Chibwe. I like Kentucky in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. I like Providence. Again, gonna bring out the fact that I watch a lot of SEC basketball. I've watched Kentucky. They are too inconsistent. If their shots aren't falling, they go into this almost AAU type isolation basketball where they give the ball to Jacob Toppin and think he's going to create shots off the dribble, which doesn't work. And Providence is a good defensive team. Playing in the Big East, you have to everybody's just a good defensive team for the most part. But I like Providence in this game. I think Kentucky is going to come into this game thinking that they're just going to chip on their shoulder that they should have been ranked higher. I've seen that all over Twitter. And I just think Providence is going to come in. They're going to be ready to go. They're going to get off to a hot start. And when Kentucky gets down, they don't know how to bounce back. And I think it comes down to Calipari's coaching decisions. If he doesn't give quality minutes to Chris Livingston, they won't win this game.
Yeah, I think Providence has been up and down this year, and they're kind of in a downswing. I mean, they were ranked at points this season. They're far from that right now. Kentucky has one of the best players in the nation. They have more talent than Providence. I think Kentucky wins this game pretty handily. I also could see where you could say there's an upset because Kentucky has also been inconsistent. But I really like Kentucky in this game. In the first round, I'm not going to go against Cal.
Yeah, I don't think a ton needs to be said about this game. I think there are some decent 14 seeds out there. Montana State, they score 74 a game. Have a middle of the pack defense, allow 67 a game. I think K-State has some flaws for sure, but I'm gonna keep it short. And I'm taking Kansas State in this one.
I'm gonna go short, sweet, to the point. Kansas State.
Same, I think K-State has one of, if not the best transition offenses in the league. They're a Showtime type team. They gamble on defense, get a lot of steals, and sometimes that might be susceptible to more points being let up, but it also turns into a lot of points. So let me keep it short too. I'm going with K-State pretty easily here.
Yeah.
The next one, I mean, really good game here, and this is the whole narrative in all of March Madness this year. Some really good 8, 9, 7, 10s, 6, 11 even.
11, yeah.
I'm really interested in this game. I really like Michigan State going into March. I know they got bounced early in the Big Ten tournament. I don't bet against Izzo. I don't bet against teams that have good guard play. USC came in a little bit on the bubble. USC is a really good, well-rounded team, ranking inside the top 50 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. I like Michigan State more. I think the Big Ten tests you more. I think the Big Ten is going to have a successful year in March. I like Michigan State in this game.
Yeah, I mean, for the first time in a while, I also agree with you. I think the Big Ten is going to have a successful March, and my only analysis is it's Izzo in March. I'm taking Michigan State in the first round.
I agree with both of you when I say Izzo in March. That's one way to win. Some of the best guards in the nation, Hogarth and Walker. That's another way to win. And also, this is just kind of the Big Ten owns the 7-10 matchup. When they're the 7 seed, they win like 90% of the time in the last like 15 years. So I love Michigan State's guard play. I love Izzo in March. I think Michigan State wins this as well.
Yeah. Yeah, USC, their game is from distance. And Michigan State, as long as they're dialed in defensively, which I know they can be, I think they have more scoring options. I think Jaden Akins is playing well at the right time. And yeah, I like Michigan
Yeah,
State.
I think Michigan State has the highest 3-point percentage in the Big Ten.
They do. And they don't take a ton of them.
But when they do, they make them.
They do.
Oh,
Yeah.
They shoot close to 40% as a team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last
Marquette. All of us are going to take Marquette.
Marquette.
We're gonna go Marquette.
Yeah, I don't. Again, I think this is one of those matchups. There's not really much you have to talk about, but
yeah.
In the next round,
Yeah,
Purdue.
so we'll kind of split up here, but we can just kind of run through our own picks. I think Memphis beats Purdue. I think that one stands out to me. I think Memphis then beats Duke and meets Marquette in the Elite Eight, but I do have Marquette going to the Final Four.
yeah. I'm so I had FAU winning. I'm taking FAU. Or I'm taking Purdue over FAU. I'm taking Duke. Then, or sorry, no, I'm not taking Duke. I'm taking Oral Roberts over Louisiana. Then I'm taking Purdue over Oral Roberts. And then from the bottom, I have Kansas State. I have Marquette. And I've got Purdue Marquette in my Elite Eight, and then I have Marquette going to the Final Four.
Yeah, I've wrecked my brain on this Purdue Memphis game, saying Purdue is upset pro, but can he stop you? It's kind of like that pull for me. Like Purdue can, they're slow. They don't have good guard play, so it makes you say they're not built for March. But they have a guy that's 7'4", and they have the National Player of the Year. So I think I'm gonna have them beating Memphis. I think then I have Duke beating Tennessee pretty easily. Then I will take Duke over Purdue because I'm not a fan of Purdue. I just had to I feel like I just needed to pick them over Memphis. So then I had Kansas State beating Kentucky pretty easily, actually. K-State is a very fun team to watch, and I have them over Kentucky. I think Kentucky is inconsistent. And maybe my favorite matchup of this whole entire second round is between Marquette and Michigan State. Marquette plays such a fun style of basketball. Colex is such a good point guard. They have great shooters, great length. And Michigan State, like you said, is on March, an amazing guard play. But I think I'm going to go Marquette. And then, so that would leave me with a Sweet 16 of Purdue and Duke. And I already said I'd take Duke. And then Kansas State Marquette, I'm taking Marquette. Sometimes K-State's turnovers can get a little iffy, and they'll turn it over a lot. And Marquette feasts off turnovers. So then I have Duke and Marquette in the Elite Eight, and I will have Marquette moving out of the Final Four. So I feel like Marquette is probably the best team in this region.
Yeah, agreed. I think moving up and over to the Midwest,
Almost at Houston.
I
Yeah, we're taking
I
Houston.
don't, again, another one of these games, just really not much you have to
Yeah.
say. Going down to the 8-9 game, I have Iowa. I just think
I do too.
our Auburn's inability to score the basketball against a good defensive team out of the Big Ten like Iowa, I just don't see a way where Iowa loses that game for me.
Yeah, I was scores a lot of points and they push the tempo, but I agree. Iowa wins the game just because Auburn can't score, and Iowa scores a lot and fast.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like Drake as a 12 seed here. And people might even like the Golden Flashes of Kent State in the next one. But I again with the 5s and 12s, I like Miami. I like their shot making ability from multiple different schools. I think Isaiah Wong is playing really well, and with Nigel Pack, I think Miami can be really dangerous. I'm taking Miami, then I'm going to take him.
Yeah, I'm taking Drake. I think that, you know, this is one of those where, again, a team with experience, Drake's been in March Madness consistently. We always see them as like an 11 or 12 seed. Seems to be about every year. But yeah, I think this is one of those matchups where I'm going to take the experience. I'm not discounting Wong and Nigel Pack's basketball ability, but I think the experience with Drake and the coaching of Drake wins out here.
Yeah, I think if Miami makes shots, they'll win. I know that sounds like, of course you make shots, you're going to win. But Miami has good guard play, but sometimes they get a little ISO bally, and it kind of becomes like if you miss those shots, you're not going to win. But I think they will make their shots in the first round. But they do have, I forgot his name, but their big man, I think he leads their team in rebounding. He's a little banged up with an ankle injury. But I still like Miami. And again, I like Indiana as well in the next game because no one can stop Trace Jackson Davis. Nobody in the nation can. He gets to his left, it goes in every single time. So I like Miami a lot, and I think they're gonna beat Kent State pretty badly here in the first round.
Yeah. Um
I'm taking IU also.
yeah, I'm pretty low on Iowa State. I think the winner of this playing game is going to beat Iowa State. And then I'm also really low on Xavier. So I think to me, the stage is set for another playing team to advance from the first four to get to the Sweet 16. I think Xavier's dealt with some injuries. They score a lot, but I'm not super impressed with Xavier. I think they're vulnerable to an upset. I like the team who gets out of the first four over Iowa State and then over Xavier.
Yeah, I like the team on the first four over Iowa State. I'm taking Kennesaw State. I made this statement to a lot of people that I think Kennesaw State is going to make the Sweet 16, and I'm going to stick to the statement. So I'm taking Kennesaw State over Xavier, and then also taking Kennesaw State over the play-in team.
Yeah, I like Iowa State. I know they've struggled. I think they play really good defense. I think Gabe Coucher has been on fire recently. So I have Iowa State winning whoever they'll play, Mississippi State or Pitt. And then I'm also low on Xavier, but I'm not low enough to take Kennesaw State. I think so that leads to a Xavier Iowa State second round matchup. And I think Iowa State wins again. And I'm not very high on Iowa State, but I think they have a pretty easy path to the Sweet 16 just because I really don't like Xavier. Their offense has not been very good recently. Sean Miller's never been a guy known for offense, and this team is you can tell down the stretch that they've not been great offensively. So I think Iowa State kind of sleepwalks to the Sweet 16, and then they kind of get their bell rung by a Texas team.
Yeah, I think looking at the next 7-10 game, I'm taking Penn State.
Penn State all the way.
I
love this.
I don't know if you disagree with that at all.
I agree, and I think this matchup is weird in a couple of different ways because Texas A&M shouldn't be a 7.
They're very underseeded.
And Penn State shouldn't be a 10 either. I get Penn State doesn't have the best losses, but I mean, this team made it to the Big Ten championship. How do you have teams like Illinois, Iowa, teams that lost in their first matchup of the Big Ten higher than them? I don't really understand that. But this is going to be such a fun matchup, and I do also have Penn State. They play booty ball. What they do.
Yeah, I'm taking Texas against Colgate.
Yeah, I'm taking Texas as well. And I wanted to pick Penn State to go to the Sweet 16. Like this team, they shoot well. They have one of the best guards in the nation, but I like Texas too much.
Yeah,
I
me too.
had to pick Texas to beat Penn State.
And then moving on, like moving back up to the Sweet 16, I've got Indiana beating Houston.
Wow. I do too, actually. I have Houston beating Iowa if they're healthy, Indiana beating Miami. And then in that matchup, I had IU winning as well.
Yeah, and mine was Houston over Iowa, again, healthy.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
then I had IU over Drake.
I took Miami to beat Indiana. I just think they can outscore them. I think Indiana is really vulnerable. I don't think they have many scoring options past Hood Schifino and Trace Jackson Davis. And I watched it firsthand in the Big Ten tournament. Hood Schifino is a very, very inefficient player. And when that shot's not falling in for him, he takes tough shots and it kills Indiana. I like the better offensive team in this game, Miami. I think Miami gives a real test to Houston if they have Marcus Sasser. I think if Marcus Sasser isn't playing by then you're talking about a Miami team that has the offense to withstand that defense. But in the Elite Eight, I have Houston Texas matchup, and then I have Texas winning it strictly
Yeah,
because of the guard.
And I've
play.
got IU Texas, and I've got again Texas because of the guard play.
I have IU Texas as well as Peter, and I don't know who would win this game.
It'd be interesting.
I want to say Texas. I really do because I love the way Texas plays. They have maybe the best backcourt in the nation. They have good forward playing Timmy Allen. They have glue guys in like Cunningham. Serge Ibaka Rice he's such a good shooter. And I think I'm going to take Texas, but I think that could easily change for me within the next couple of days. But as of now, I do have Texas in the Final Four.
Yeah,
out of the Midwest.
Kansas is going to beat Howard.
Yeah, no doubt.
By a lot.
Yeah, I got no analysis for that
No.
one.
You don't really need
It's Kansas and they're Howard, so it's
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
pretty much.
I'm taking Arkansas over Illinois. I think they're more talented. Arkansas doesn't shoot the ball very well. I know we talked about them a little bit earlier, potentially giving Kansas a challenge. I think we're all taking Arkansas on this one.
Yeah, I am.
I don't know because they're too similar for me, and I think it's a coin toss. They both are athletic and long and don't shoot well, so they're equally as bad, I guess you say, or equally they underperform. So it's really a coin toss, and I do think that whoever wins this game will lose to Kansas in the next round. So I do think Arkansas might have a little edge because they have more talent.
Yeah, I also like Kansas in the next round.
Yeah, so going to St. Mary's and VCU, I'm actually going to take VCU here. I like their guard play, and I think St. Mary's very good defensive team. But this game is going to be a battle defensively. You're talking about a VCU team that allows 63 a game, and St. Mary's allows 60 a game. Two elite defenses in the nation. I'm going to take VCU. I like their guard play a little bit more.
Yeah. What do you got?
Again, this is a 5-12 matchup, but I don't want to sound chalky here. But St. Mary's has been pretty good all year. But I do kind of agree with Noah. Ace Baldwin is a great guard for VCU. And David Shriver is an amazing three-point shooter also on VCU. And VCU can struggle to knock down threes at points, but I do think that Shriver and Baldwin can get it done against St. Mary's. So I'm going to take the upset and go VCU as well.
As am I. I'm taking the 12 over the 5 there. I mean, you look at the fact that, I mean, yeah, St. Mary's averages is like 2 points more a game in second chance points, and then VCU shoots like 1 more percentage point higher in field goal percentage. So when you look at stats like that, it's a relatively even matchup, and I just like VCU. I've always liked VCU in March. So
now the next game, I think Iona's a really good basketball team. I think they got put against one of the strongest fours in the tournament. I'm really high on UConn going into the tournament. So I am going UConn, but I thought that if Iona had a better matchup as a 4, like if they got matched up with Tennessee, I thought Iona could get in and win a couple games. But I think UConn is just a buzzsaw.
I'm taking UConn.
Yeah, I agree. I'm taking UConn as well, and I think that Iona is kind of in the same boat as I said with Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts at 12 seed got a really tough 5 and Duke, a team that didn't play well early on, so they're a little underseeded. And I feel it's the same way with UConn. And I think Iona, a great basketball team, but they won't be able to beat UConn. Jordan Hawkins, Sonogo, they're a very good team, and I think UConn.
I think the big thing for me when it comes to UConn is just the ways in which they can beat you. They're solid defensively, they're solid offensively. They can beat you shooting the ball, they can beat you inside. I think UConn has the ability to win multiple games in this tournament.
Completely agree.
The next game, the playing tournament, the playing game is Arizona State and Nevada. Winner gets TCU. I'm going with TCU.
Yes.
As am I.
I
Yeah.
don't feel like there's much conversation. TCU's a great team.
TCU really underrated in the Big 12.
Because, yeah, and Miles was out for
Was
for a
hurt for a
chunk of
while.
that Big 12 schedule. So
Which is
that's
why I think they're
a
lower
six.
seeds and
Yeah.
realistically, had he been healthy, I think
They
they
could have
could.
been a 3, maybe a
A
like
three
or
is a stretch, but
three.
I think a 4 comfortably a 4.
Yeah.
I'm taking,
TCU, I think we all think
Yeah.
TCU can make some
Yeah.
noise here.
I'm taking Gonzaga over
I'm gonna
Grand
take
Canyon.
Gonzaga too.
I'm all speaking.
And then now this is where it gets interesting for me because I know a lot of people want to take or are going to take Northwestern. I'm not super high on Northwestern, and I really just think I think Bowie has had a phenomenal year. I'm not taking anything away from him at all. But I think Boise State is a good, well-rounded team. All 5 of their starters average double digits, but then it drops off a little bit. They're not the deepest team. They don't rely on their bench, but they have a great defense, and so does Northwestern. But I think Boise State has more scoring options, and I think if one guy has an off game, I think once you get past Bowie and once you get past Audige, I think one of those guys doesn't have a good game. Northwestern is really susceptible. I like the Broncos in this one.
Yeah, I'm also taking Boise State. I mean, Boise State shoots a better percentage from the field from 3. They dominate in the paint compared to Northwestern, and they're about even in second chance points. But I think if Boise State can win the paint and you can slow down either Audige or Bowie because they both have to play well for Northwestern to win.
There's no scoring after them.
No, so if you can, like, you're not going to stop them because they are very good guards. But if you can slow them down, I think Boise State wins that game.
I agree. I think no hit it on the head. I think a lot of people are going to want to take Northwestern, but if their guard play doesn't shoot well, they'll lose this game by 20.
Yeah, and I think Boise State has a defense to stop really good guard play.
So
Kind of running back up.
Well,
we're
So-
taking UCLA.
yeah, we're okay. We're all taking
UCLA. So my Elite Eight matchup is KU and Gonzaga. I did have not many upsets here. I had Gonzaga. I thought about Gonzaga and TCU. I think if they caught the right 3 seed, I think TCU could go to the Sweet 16. But I think Gonzaga is flying a little bit under the radar this year. I think that's good for them. I think they make it to the Elite Eight after beating TCU and UCLA, who's beat up now. But I can't get over it, man. I like Kansas to come out of this over Gonzaga.
I have an Elite Eight of Kansas, UCLA. I had TCU beating Gonzaga in the round of 32,
I could see it happen.
and then I got UCLA beating TCU. And again, not that I'm the biggest Kansas fan in the world, but I got Kansas coming out.
Yeah, I disagree. I have UConn going to the Final Four. I have them UConn, UCLA, but I think I like Gonzaga more. So I think I'm going to say my Elite Eight would be UConn, Gonzaga. And UConn will win that game, in my opinion. And I think that the big thing here is UConn beating Kansas. I like Kansas, but like Noah said, UConn is so well rounded. They're a 4 seed that Kansas does not want to catch. Kansas got a really tough draw. And I think UConn is going to be able to take them down. So I have UConn in my Final Four.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Running up through the Final Fours. My Final Four is Bama, Marquette, Texas, Kansas. I have Kansas beating Texas. It sort of a redemption game for them. And then I have Bama beating Marquette. And then I've got Bama winning 72-66 over Kansas in the national title.
Yeah, I think we have the exact same final four. I have Bama and Marquette. In that matchup, I like Marquette. I wanted to pick Marquette. I think talent wins out though. Alabama's offense really hard to guard. Brandon Miller, one of the best players in the country. I'm going to take Bama, and then I also have Texas and Kansas. I'm going to roll with Texas. I think they exposed Kansas. I think they're fantastic defensively. I really like their guard play. Marcus Carr and Tyrese Hunter, very good, especially when we talk about the glue guys. I think Texas is a really deep team, which is why I have Texas beating Alabama 81-75 in the national championship.
Yeah, I have my final four. I'm just looking at it now. I think it was between Creighton and Alabama in that South region. So I think I'm gonna go Alabama. So I'll have Alabama, Marquette, Texas, and UConn. And then I'll have Texas beating UConn, and I will have Marquette beating Alabama. So a Texas Marquette final, and I think Marquette wins that game. I think Marquette's backcourt's pretty good. Again, their length is up. They're a very big team. And Cam Jones is such a great shooter that I think that game will be close, but I do think that Marquette can beat Texas in the national game.
I like it. Well, I mean, we've kind of gone through the whole bracket. I think we all made some pretty good points. So that's pretty much our March Madness special. Yeah, I mean, that's really all we got for you. You guys comment down below your final four and who you have winning the national title. And yeah,
Be a great March.
it's going to be a great March, and we'll sleep
be
in.
sure to check in with you
Yeah.
guys as the tournament goes on.
Yeah, and we'll sleep in May.
Yes, we do.